Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, CesarRespino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, CesarRespino, and today I have a special guest. He is an international speaker and the head of enrollment at Influencer Press, an agency with the sole purpose of helping service-based business get their prospects 80% pre-sold before a sales conversion using the art of pre-influence. Using applied influence research, he guides the pathway to entrepreneurial growth past seven figures and to time freedom. As he's been able to help clients get to reduce refunds by 70%, 70% reduce time in business by 50%, and help business owners close deals at 60% rate. It's my pleasure to introduce Jake Ken. Hey, Jake, how are you, brother?
Cesar, I'm so good, man, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because I truly do believe that the human spirit is impossible to extinguish, right? When we're like fully aligned. So I believe I believe truly we can overcome anything.
I do believe so too, man, and I love that. So, Jake, tell me a little bit about your upbringing, your background. Where are you original from, and how was that? Because I do believe, as you talk about, the human being, we begin from that, right? Whatever we went through in the first couple of years in our lives really dictates our future, as long as we work on those things, right? And so, tell me about your upbringing.
100%, man. Yeah. So I believe every hero has their origin story. I would never say I'm a hero, though. No, I'm joking. So, for me, I actually grew up in upstate New York on a farm, but it was really interesting because, my dad was disabled. He was a police officer that was injured on the job. My mom had to support everything. But unfortunately, at the time when I was raised, we didn't have any jobs or anything. So I was picking up cans on the side of the road as a way to support our family.
Yeah.
And but from a young age, I started working with my parents from about 6 years old. They got a job and I was lucky enough that I could help them. And that instilled, I think, some qualities in me that I've carried throughout my entire life. But it was also very interesting childhood because I was actually raised in a cult. So I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, which it was a very challenging environment growing up for many different reasons, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, all these things. But what it did do, and I think that you totally will get this, Caesar, is like, when people get exposed to, sometimes extreme environments. Well, what gets made in extreme environments? In biology, you find extremophiles, which are organisms that thrive in extreme environments. And I think right? Like with this podcast, you've probably seen a lot of people that like have encountered some adversity in their life, and it breeds a different type of human.
Yeah.
Different type of human that cares a lot about the world around them, causing positive change, and not settling for anything less than, having an impact in the world.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. And even thinking about what you just mentioned, having to start work at 6 years old, right? And you often don't hear that, right? Specifically when people say, well, yeah, I'm from the States, you don't really hear a lot of those stories, and those stories are real, and they do happen. It's a lot of people don't really talk about it. And what I like about what you mentioned is that because of that, that kind of trigger, again, the disciplines and the things that you have right now, and how you go about your life, and also I would say the habits that you've learned from that, right? Because there are definitely lessons that were learned through that and being able to do
Yeah.
that. So let me ask you this, like, even growing up and, having to work at an early age, being part of a JW community, and all that stuff. Um, how did that translate to you as you get into your teens and go to high school? Because a lot of times, that can have a huge impact, as you mentioned, you went through a lot of different things. How was that for you?
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, the fact that you abbreviated it down to JW means that there's something back there that we need to explore in terms of your familiarity.
Yeah.
But oh man, you're like, oh yeah, been down that road. So we got an interesting conversation there. But
Yeah.
my teens were probably one of the most painful times of my life, to be honest with you.
Mm,
And it's not seeking pity or anything. It's just like what my life was. What happened is that my parents kind of forced me to be homeschooled.
mhm,
And, I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere. There was no kids, even in the church. So I spent most of my time alone
mm,
and very, very depressed. And it got so bad, I knew as I started to develop higher cognitive thought, around 13, 14, right? Like the research shows that we kind of develop into our own person around then. And as
mhm,
that happened, I felt this massive dissonance between who I wanted to be and who the environment around me was forcing me to be.
mm,
And I got more and more depressed because I didn't have any hope. I didn't have any purpose. In fact, anytime I expressed my purpose or my passion, it was attempted to be extinguished because it was a threat to, the status quo of that religion, of that culture, which is just, the it's an extension of the word cult, right? That culture. So it brought me actually to, being suicidal, making some attempts, and lucky enough, because not everybody is, to still be here through those attempts, which I'm forever grateful for. But it was a hard time, man, and but put myself into college. I walked into a college admissions office and I was like, how do I go here? And they looked at me with such like pity. They were like, oh, come in the back with me, like we'll take care of you.
yeah.
um but that was the most fascinating time in my life because I had to study people. It was my first time exposure to the real world, right?
Mm,
Like leaving everything behind, zero support systems, and I'm trying to understand the world, let alone people. And I'm watching people like it's National Geographic. Like in my
yeah.
head, there's like this voiceover playing, like, oh, and the human male approaches the woman,
Yeah.
using, it's just like I was trying to figure it all out. It was a
Yeah.
time of confusion, but like really cool exploration.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
You said a couple of things that I think that definitely have a lot of impact and weight. The first thing is, yeah, you were obviously going through some difficult times, right? And so your teens were probably the most difficult, yet they led you to who you are now. And I believe that sometimes we don't see it, except I do believe that from a pain, a purpose is born, right? And sometimes we don't know what that purpose
Always.
is, except again, we might be going through some painful stuff, whatever that might be, whether ourselves or family, somebody passed away. It might be a very painful aspect, yet a purpose is born. And once we can recognize what that purpose is for ourselves, then we can definitely, go about our ways and create a bigger impact in humankind, which is what I believe all of us want to do or should do. So that's
Yeah.
the first one. The second thing I would say is you talk about your environment, right? And you were talking about how your environment kind of molds you, and the fact that you were homeschooled. There was really not a lot of kids. You were in this environment, secluded from society to an extent, or from other people, and so you kind of became your environment. You became again yourself, by yourself, and then led you to a depression mode. Having that said, how critical it is, because a lot of people don't realize and don't recognize how critical it is to be in the right environment, whatever that right means for people, right? I guess, except
Yeah.
how critical is that? And it's kind of like the what Jim Rohn talks about, that average five, right? How critical is
Yeah.
that in your opinion?
I mean, it's everything, man. Like, you've got such a good understanding, and probably because you literally talk to so many people, and their life stories, which, you're a collector of stories. So I love that. Right.
Yes.
Because that's how we make meaning out of the world. And these are so powerful. But yeah, a person's environment is critical, man, like forever and for always. And I think I was hypersensitive to it because I was in an extreme environment where I saw how it was affecting my life.
Mm.
That, well, I went from extreme environment to extreme environment. I went from that to, like, kind of, launching off the deep end into
Yeah.
exploring, things I couldn't explore before, and wound up in another extreme.
Yeah.
And, it really does dictate our outcomes, right? Like, if you actually, and tying it kind of back into the pre-influence stuff, like if you read Robert Cialdini, Persuasion, that book is fantastic. Influence. But if you look at the research on influence, persuasion, which is all a study of human behavior change,
Mm.
what's interesting is that the context matters more than the content. What do I mean by that? It means that what happens around the event, before an event, or what happens around you is actually extremely influential and can change the reality, the meaning, and ultimately what happens as an output. Like, it can dramatically change it. It's been shown in the research that you can literally even change. I know I'm going off on a tangent, sorry.
No,
But you
good.
can change the agreeableness of a person by changing the context of the question, right? So
Mm.
there was a study that was done where they asked people 6 questions, random questions. And then at the end, they asked them to do something that they had never done before. And they got like a standard, rate of people saying, okay, cool, we'll do that. It was like 20%
Mm-hmm.
that decided to do this new thing. What they did is they changed only one thing, and it doubled the agreements of that person saying, yeah, I'll do it. So it went up to 40%. And the only thing that they changed was the first question. They've changed that first question to ask, are you adventurous? And what that did is it changed the context with which people viewed their experience after. And therefore, they actually said, yes, I am adventurous. Yes, I'll do this new thing. So does our environment matter? Oh my gosh, man, 100%. We're constantly being, persuaded and influenced and affected by our environment. It's key to really make sure that we curate these experiences for ourselves and for others.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, and it's true, and we don't even realize that. Maybe the majority of the people don't realize that. And when it comes down to like just the influence, right? There's so much influence with social media, with the news, with um, the TV shows, with everything you see, right? There's so much influence, and one of the things that uh, people don't recognize is that by you watching whatever you're watching, at the end of the day, you're programming the unconscious mind. You're creating those thoughts in your mind, and therefore believing that. And so, more so, why I believe that people need to rightfully, based on their beliefs and whatever they want, do their own research and say, you know what, I want to listen to podcasts like this, or listen to things that are, I think, going to help you really level up to the next place, right? And so, yeah, because
100%,
there's
man.
there's
I
a lot of that
wish
stuff.
more people would be listening to content like this in your
Yeah,
podcast, man. It's so vital, the work that you're doing,
yeah,
because what our subconscious is literally programming our perception of reality. Like, that's not woo-woo. It is
hmm,
scientific fact. The reticular activating system, meaning, like, if you buy a red car, you know this stuff, right?
hmm,
But if you buy a red car, like, guess what? You're going to start seeing that same exact red car everywhere,
right,
which means that if we're taking in the type of content that is actually curating our experience in life to look for the good, to look for opportunities, to have discipline, commitment, consistency, guess what? We're going to show up with those traits. I wish more people are watching this. They need to be. Why aren't you? And
yeah.
congratulations to the ones that are.
Exactly, definitely, yeah. So, Jake, one thing that I know, I want to take you back a little bit more to your teens. I know a lot of people have gone through, even right now with coming off of the pandemic or whatever we went through. I don't know. Coming off of that, a lot of people felt, depressed, and they were going through a lot of different emotions, right? What did you do because I know that that's very useful for people that might be, going through something similar right now. What did you do to help you step away or outside of, having those suicidal thoughts or doing any harm to yourself, and really saying, what, this is not me, and I gotta take different, directions. Was it, help? Like, what was it for you that helped you? Because I'm sure that that can help somebody that might be listening to us.
Well, back then, there was actually one thing that really saved my life. And it sounds very silly, but it was a song.
Mm.
I remember, I was kind of planning out maybe another attempt, and I was listening to MTV back when they had music on it.
Good
That's
old
the thing
days.
for those that, yeah, right.
Good old
I'm
days.
aging myself. But yeah, there was a song that came on, and I remember being so depressed, and I listened to this song, and the lyrics just hit me. It was the song called "The Adventure" by this band called Angels and Airwaves, and the whole song was about, like, the first lyrics were, I want to wake up and have the same last dream again, the one where I want to have the same last dream again, the one where I wake up and I'm alive. And the whole song is about like this freshness of life. It's like such a beautiful lyrical
Mm.
song. And in the chorus, it was like, it says, life is waiting to begin. And I don't know how or why it hit me in that way, but it saved my life, because I remember like getting up from my chair and being like, life is waiting to begin. Life is waiting to begin, and it's waiting on me.
Mm.
And I get to choose if I'm going to live this life that I've been, called to live, that my purpose has been placed on my life. And I have to consciously choose to accept this and walk the path. I don't have to, but I get to choose to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's so powerful. Just that the fact that we don't have to do anything in this life, yet we have the options and the choice. We get to choose what we want to do. And one
Yeah.
message that I want to say, even with what you just mentioned right now, and for those that are listening to us, and if you're watching this, I want you to recognize and realize that whatever you believe in, whether it's God, the universe, a greater power, someone greater than you, whatever you believe in, the fact that you're listening to this podcast, you're here watching us right now, that means that that greater power, universe, or God is not over with you. And that means that you have one more opportunity to do something with your life. Maybe it is to go open up that business. Maybe it is to connect with the right people so that you can start changing your life around, whatever that might be. Because sometimes we lose hope and we lose the idea of living, because we say, well, there's nothing else for us to look for. And that's, in my opinion, that I think that's not the case. The fact that you're listening to this, that means that your greater power, whatever you believe in, is not over with you, and therefore you have so much to give and to offer as you continue this journey called life, right? And so I wanted to make sure that I put that out there for the people that are listening
Amen.
to us. Um, Having
Yeah,
that,
it was beautiful.
yeah, thank you. So tell me a little bit about now what you're doing. You're obviously doing a lot of different things. You're helping businesses. You're helping people. Tell me about the stuff that you have going on right now, and helping out within your profession.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for asking. This is the Jake answer for it, but fundamentally, man, I get to do what I live for every single day, and it is to change people's lives. And I truly believe that with all of my heart, because what we do at Influencer Press, right? Like, we get to help a lot of service-based businesses, financial advisors, consultants, but people that do services, they do work, they do good things for good people,
Mm.
and a lot of them are frustrated, they're tired, they're overwhelmed, and they haven't really figured out how to make it work, right? Like, even if they have made it to, they're making 6 figures by themselves, right? Like, everybody has that dream to kind of do their thing, live their life, and also have the money to do so, right? And but perhaps they're struggling a little bit. They might be great at what they do, but that doesn't mean that they're great yet at business, because
Mm.
like that's its own sport.
Right.
And they'll come in, and a lot of times they'll be struggling to get more clients, they'll be struggling to get more leads, sell more deals, all this kind of stuff. Like, in the it doesn't sound that sexy like that, but ultimately what that means is we get to transform their business, and we actually get to make it easier for them. because, when we do all of this work around pre-influence, people will come in and people will not want to give them the time of day. People will not listen to them. They're struggling. They're not making the money that they want. And after, what winds up happening is they're getting on lots of calls with people that are saying, you solve exactly the problem that I'm having. You are the expert at this. How do we make this work? And that is a game-changing experience for somebody. If you've ever had that experience, like flipping the script from like trying to chase people to pull them in is a completely different feeling. And it unlocks so much good inside of their life in terms of who they help. So that's fundamentally what we do. All of the, the X's and O's we can go into, but that's what we do, man. And I love it.
No, I love that, and I love the message to you that I have here too, and it kind of revolves around not just what you do at Influencer Press, is also, I think, applies to life. And you have your influence is the master key that unlocks the life of your dreams, and so I think that's very powerful. Tell me a little bit more about that. When we're looking at, it's funny. I was doing a video, I think, on TikTok, and I was talking about, definitely, I like the idea that you have to have dreams, right? Except sometimes people get hung up and they sleep in and they're dreaming and dreaming and dreaming, and say, you know what, it's time to get up and make those dreams become a reality, right? And make them a reality from that perspective. So with you guys, with the influence, with what you're doing, and even in life, the fact that having been influential and having that influence to be able to master the key to unlock your dreams. How do you see that, and how is that applicable, for people to really go to that next chapter in their life? Because a lot of people do lack the probably the idea of, am I motivated enough? Am I confident enough? Do I have even the ability to influence anybody, for that matter, right? And I think that the word influence is huge.
Well, yeah, it's such a good question, man. And to frame it, like I really would love to kind of give something that I think changed my life, and I wish that I kind of realized it. I really wish I wish I realized it 30 years ago, but let's just say 10 years ago. Kind of, as I started to really become an adult and make my way in the world. But I really wish I knew this, because it would have saved me so much time and so much heartbreak and so much money. And it's really this one thing that I want to give to people, and it's that, there are just simply universal laws. There just are, right? There are ways that the world works, and one of those, right, in the physical world, is gravity, right? Like, just gravity exists, right? Like, you can jump up and you're going to come back down, right? It's just a matter of fact. And when it comes to thinking about causing change in this world, causing impact, one of the laws is you have to be able to influence the world around you. Now, what is influence? Influence is the ability, in my opinion, to cause change in another person's reality. What a beautiful concept when wielded by someone who truly wants to help other people. That ultimately means that influence is the cornerstone. It is quintessential to leadership. And the first level of leadership is always self-leadership. To be able to lead yourself towards a different belief, a different action, a different way of seeing the world, a different perception. And as we do that, we also unlock this next level where we can begin to influence other people one-to-one. You and I in this conversation. You and I, or me and somebody else in another conversation, because I can understand and I have set up the paradigm for other people to be influenced in a positive direction. By the way, the only people that we'll work with is if they're ethically using this stuff, because it's too powerful. The pre-influence stuff. Like, if they don't do business ethically, we won't even work with them, because it's like, it's great power comes great responsibility. But the ability to influence is actually not, like, some people might say, right, oh, you're manipulating other people. Well, manipulation has semiotically, or like the meaning of the word to people symbolically, is a negative thing, but to manipulate simply means to mold.
Mhm.
And what does any artist do that lovingly cares about its creation? They mold it into something beautiful. And as leaders, as people that have overcome a lot of adversity, it is our duty, it is our right to influence other people, to help them in their life get what they want,
Mhm.
right? Like, the old quote, right? Like, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have anything that you want.
Right, right.
It starts with helping other people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a part of that too goes back to the actions, right, and the intentions, right. I like the fact that you said, people have to be ethical about what they're doing. Number one, number two is, when you're molding somebody, I always believe that as long as whatever it is that I'm saying or what content I'm putting or what information I'm giving to other people, as long as it's not harming anybody else, and I keep that very clear that whatever I'm doing is not to harm anybody else, yet to help people, then I believe that I'm doing the right thing, right? Obviously,
100%.
everybody is gonna have their own stuff, and I think the biggest element with that too is just like in relationships, right? Or loving relationships, any relationship for that matter, should be if this person or this company or this business is not adding to me and they're subtracting from me, then in reality, I don't need them, right? I don't need someone that's going to be subtracting from me. I need someone that's going to be adding to me, and that could be through influence. It could be through guiding you, providing you, giving you a lot more information, so that you're growing, 1% better every day, right? So
Well, I
that's
think people can see that about you through and through, man. Like that
yeah,
that you've got a heart for not only self-improvement, but also to do good in the world, right?
yeah,
Like it's something I think anybody who listens to you for a minute or two can just deeply understand that, like, you're of a different caliber, right? Like in terms of the way that you live and what you want as an output for your life.
yeah.
So it's abundantly clear, man. And I'm glad that we have people like you that are really
Thank you. Yeah,
leading the charge in that way. Because not everybody does,
yeah. Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. Let me ask you something. If people wanted to connect with you, find out more about how they can probably work with you guys, where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So the website is influencerpress.com, which is a great, great place. You can, of course, find me on Instagram if you want to follow my stuff, which is Jacob underscore T underscore Kent. And on that front, what we do at Influencer Press, just to kind of like sum it up, is what we're doing is pre-influencing the purchasing decision. Every single business needs revenue, right? Like, we need people to help in order to be in business, or else we just have a hobby.
Right.
And with that, we're setting up using all of the academic research to ethically get people to want to work with you and to pre-influence that purchasing decision, and instead of trying to sell them on a call, we're doing all that work before, so that way they're pre-sold on them. And that's building not only credibility, not only building social authority, but it's actually creating and building buying beliefs into prospects and building their identity
Mm,
into people that are resourceful and that believe it's possible for them. Because that is actually one of the biggest things that holds people back in business. Is one, they are not positioned correctly, meaning like they don't own the space, that they do a specific thing better than anybody else. So positioning is important. But after that, it's the ability to create and establish the buying beliefs in whoever they want to work with, and creating that certainty that their business, that the product and service are 100% the right option, and that the prospect has certainty in themselves. And that's the thing that most people miss. You have to have the prospect has to have certainty in themselves, or they will not move forward. So we get to do that kind of work. But anyways, to sum it up,
yeah.
yeah, they can 100% work with us. Just influencerpress.com. You can reach out to me directly. It's Jake at Influencer Press.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and you guys work with with really anybody that's taking they want to take their business to maybe seven figures, or is there a criteria of who can work with you?
Yeah. So, it's who we really specialize in is really like trust-based, service-based businesses, which is to say, people that are providing a service, but that the transaction relies heavily on trust, which is almost all of them.
Mhm.
But you think about financial advisors, consultants, you think about B2B services, all great options for us. Although we've even worked with like, home services, like blue collar work, and completely changed their business and changed their revenue.
I love it.
So, the cool thing is like it works across the board because we're changing human behavior, right? Like you even said in the introduction, like we've even dropped refunds by 70% inside of a company by simply changing and influencing the way that the business is communicating with customers. Thinking about it, like customers are unhappy and they want refunds, but walking in and literally overnight after we established some stuff with them, 70% of their refunds went away. Nothing else
Huge.
changed
That's
besides
huge.
just that. Which, could you imagine how huge that is for that
That's
business?
huge.
Like yeah, it's massive. So this stuff is fundamental. It's paramount. It's nothing, in my opinion, could be more important.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I have two last questions for you. And the first one is, do you have any sort of Tony Robbins refers to them as rituals. So any habits, daily habits that kind of help you get your day started or get your day moving, any kind of disciplines that you want to share with us?
Well, for me, man, I live, die, breathe by this. It's a to-do list, man.
We're old fashioned.
Um,
I have
yeah,
seen.
right. Yeah, no. So for me, I believe that momentum is key to everything in life. And what I do is I write down every last thing I can into the smallest digestible action. So that way I can do something, scratch it off, do something, scratch it off.
Mm,
That way, within 10 to 15 minutes, I can be like, I've already got 10 things done and I'm already on my way to getting the entire day accomplished. So for me, that's a
awesome.
psychological trick that I use. And also, nothing can replace a good session of meditation just to set you in the
Mm,
right mindset. Going back to the reticular activating system, right? What we look for is what we're going to find. So spending some time in meditation and gratitude and appreciation is only going to bring what?
more.
More
Okay.
gratitude,
Yep.
more appreciation, which
Yep.
is only going to bring more of that into your life.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, those two things are absolutely inescapable. Must be done every single morning.
I love that. I love that. Those are definitely golden nuggets. The last question I have for you is for the people that are watching us and are listening to us, if they're going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what could be one or two things that you can say to them so they can start overcoming that challenge?
Two things. The first one is from Ed Milet. I love it. It's one of my favorite quotes out there. And it's simply this: you're closer than you think.
Mm,
When we are going through adversity, through challenges, when we feel like we're up against the wall, feels like things are so far away. But in reality, we're one or two decisions away from actually completely changing our reality. And it just feels far away. So you're closer than you think to change everything. But the second one is what I leave. It is one of the ways that I live my life. It is my life motto that I told myself when I went through the fires of the forge, uh, of some of the hardest moments of my life. And this is the quote that I live my life by. And I'll leave you with this. To anyone listening, sorry, I'm going to do that again. To anybody listening, leave no doubt. Leave no doubt to those that have left you or did not believe in you. Leave no doubt to those who support you and are rooting for you. But most importantly, leave no doubt in your mind who you are.
boom, there you have it, man. I love that. That's amazing, man. Jake, thank you again for sharing all of this insights and wisdoms and your life story with us and find that confidence. So I really appreciate it. And definitely enjoy this conversation with you. Anything that you want to say before I let you go?
Nah, man, I think we said it all.
All
Appreciate
right.
you.
Sounds good. Well, Jake, thank you again for being here. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor, make sure that you guys share this podcast because definitely somebody needs to hear this message. And I'll see you guys on the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm CesarRespino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.